I've been doing a fair amount of coaching lately within my local Ottawa FGC community, and I noticed that a huge amount of people in the fighting game community were either too scared to compete or don't know how. In my opinion, competing is the life of Street Fighter. It gives you a motivation to grind, a space to make friends, an excuse to travel, and the perfect blanket to make memories that will last for the rest of your life. To get you into the scene, I'm going to lay out the steps you need to take to compete and give a rough 5 levels of competing in Street Fighter. Firstly, you're going to want an Ethernet connection to whatever setup you play on at home. Pull a cable through your wall, annoy the shit out of your roommates by dragging it through the hallways. This is essential. Wi-Fi creates a lot of hiccups in fighting games and is banned in 90% of online tournaments. Not only that, but you're doing yourself and your opponents, even outside of tournaments, a favor by letting the players fight and not the connections. Secondly, you're going to want to start GG account. Almost all online and offline tournaments are organized through the website StartGG. It's free to make and is a great resource for scheduling yourself and finding new tournaments. Third, this step isn't necessary, but make a Twitter account. It's a great way to keep up with events, top players, and make friends in the scene. I personally have made many connections that have gotten me many places, such as the Salty Suite at EVO, interviews with organizations, and collaborations with other creators. Just make sure, don't argue! If you start arguing with someone on Twitter, close the app! Now that that's out of the way, the 5 levels of competing, going from casual learning and growth to professional competition. The first level is locals. Locals are typically weekly events run at game stores and such in person. Depending on your region, your locals might be insanely stacked with top players or have just a few competing players. Regardless, most locals tend to have a small bracket followed by several hours of casual matches to ask questions and play games with good players. Locals are a great way to learn the game, and you essentially just get free coaching from the best players in your city, as well as first-time practice in bracket. You can find your locals usually by just simply looking up Street Fighter events in your city. I myself learned the game through locals in Street Fighter V, and now 3 years later, I'm not only just the first seed in every week of our Street Fighter VI locals, but I'm also one of the tournament organizers that helps run things every week. The second stage of competition is online weeklies. Online weeklies are typically the most convenient type of event for anyone to join, but they have their downsides as well. Compared to a local, online weeklies tend to be a bracket and then the event is over. You can watch the stream, but the event's over. This creates a much more competitive environment. In addition, top players such as Punk, NuckleDu, Nephew, insanely talented players just join these random online weeklies, which can make things insanely competitive. A good way to keep up with these tournaments is on Twitter, where you can follow the accounts of the organizations running tournaments. Even within the category of online weeklies, different levels of competition exist. TNS often breaks several hundred players, a few $100s worth of prize money, and several professional players. Meanwhile, other online weeklies run brackets where you can keep playing after losing 10, 20 games, or even team formats. Some great weeklies are on screen. If you're just starting out for one of your first tournaments, I highly suggest Casablanche with their ladder format, allowing you to keep playing no matter how many games you win or lose, and you'll just continue fighting new players in competitive format. The third stage of competition is monthlies. In many regions, local organizers run larger events than their typical locals called monthlies, where generally things are run less casually, a prize pool might be collected, and some players might drive in from neighboring cities to compete. These essentially are just locals, but taken more seriously by the local competitors and surrounding region. NuckleDu also runs an online monthly called Arm the Rebels, which just ends up being an insanely stacked online weekly in North America with a huge prize pool. And again, just like online tournaments and weeklies, anyone can join these events. Going from the third to the fourth stage of competition is majors and online invitationals. A huge step up from the previous tier. Majors and invitationals have a caveat that they're rather hard to get to. For online invitationals, you typically have to do consistently well in a weekly or monthly tournament series to then get invited to the invitational. These pop up randomly among online series such as Arm the Rebels, Street Fighter Academy, World Warrior, the Trolley League, and others. The barrier to offline majors is not skill level, but budget. Majors crop up usually in large cities and are usually some sort of yearly big hurrah event, getting people all over from nearby cities, provinces, states, or even flying in from other countries. Anyone can join, but reaching a top placement is rather brutal. Expect several hundred participants. Some good examples are Gommel, East Coast Throwdown, Frosty Faustings, or Texas Showdown. People take notice of these events. Wikipedia might make an article about you as an esports player if you consistently place. Organizations might look at picking you up and assign player, and if you stream, people will probably check you out. Even if you're not looking to compete at the highest level and gain all this clout and other bullshit, going to a major is an extremely good experience for you to just get out there in person and play some good ass sets and meet people in person, buy merch, whatever you want. It's a very good feeling to be around people that get you. The fifth and final level of competition is offline super majors and Capcom Cup qualifiers. Super majors are already established events that have been running for years and collect the eyes of people even outside the Street Fighter community. Other events schedule around them as to not conflict with players entering or watching the super major. Anyone can join these as well, but expect to fly out to one of these events and stay several nights. Expect several thousand participants. Some good examples are Combo Breaker, Evo Japan, or CEO. Capcom Cup qualifiers have some crossover with super majors. For example, the winner of Evo 2023 also qualified for the Capcom Cup. By competing in your regional online World Warrior events and consistently placing well, you can also be invited to the World Warrior finales, the winner of which gets invited to Capcom Cup. And the reason that these events are in a tier of their own is, for one, the ones that qualify you for Capcom Cup. Capcom Cup is the biggest super major of the year in terms of competition. You will meet literally every single good player from a region. As for the other super majors, there's just such a large quantity of players, vendors, things to do, attention on the streams, and money in the prize pot that the competition is just truly on another level, along with the production quality of the streams and everything of that sort. With my personal advice, even if I was broke, I would still try and go to Evo this year. I've been a very frugal person in my own life, and the one thing that I've spent big money on in the last 20 years of my life is flying myself out to Vegas and staying in a hotel and going to Evo. And I gotta say, that was the best use of money I've ever done in my entire life. If you can make it to one of these super majors and compete, do it. Events at these levels are taken notice by everyone. Every upset will make the rounds on Twitter for a day or two, and winning one is a dream for any Street Fighter competitor. In any chance, I hope this video was informational, and I hope that this gets someone to join their first online tournament or look up their locals and try and have a spin at it. Remember to eat your crayons and give me free clout on social media. Thank you very much.